Recording. Okay, we are now recording. Hello! Welcome to August 9th, Fuck Shit Up meeting. Um, we have a small group today. There may be people who are joining at a different time. There may be people who have to leave early. That is totally cool and welcome. We have Alina, Raul, Reza, and David here currently. I am stoked that we have this. We have a easy topic to do today, or maybe at least a short topic to do today. And in the back burner is still thinking about the mission or the charter for the Fuck Shit Up committee. Um, Hi, Reza. The idea today was the language that is being put together to recruit chapter leaders into chapter leader roles. I had put the text that was like the starting place text in an email, which was probably stupid because not everybody reads email. Here comes Cole. But I thought we would start the conversation there, and then my mouse is not working. Copy. And then we'll see where it goes and if that leads to any further thoughts or comments about the charter, right? So we're going to do something, and then the charter is about how the Fuck Shit Up does what it does, and this is an example of one of the things that it's doing. I also pasted it in at the top of the shared draft for the charter so that it's in both places, just so that nobody is confused. Copy this link. Okay, so here is the Google Doc link that has the language about chapter board elections at the top of it. And then underneath it is like sample text and things to reference and think about when you're looking at the mission and the charter. Does everybody see what I did or what I'm doing?
I cannot see it.
I'm not sharing the screen. I just didn't. You would have to open the Google Doc.
I did not get the Google Doc actually as well too. I mean, unless I went to a different email for me.
Okay, so I just put the link into the chat, and you're actually already an editor, Raul.
Okay.
Chances are you were there a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Because you accepted editorship.
Let me see. Chat. Okay, there we go. Got it. Thank you.
Right. No worries. Sure. So if you'll notice at the top, I put today's topic, and then there's asterisks, and then the stuff below the asterisks is the stuff to be thinking about, kind of back burner around charter. Hopefully the next meeting series that we do, I have to do another doodle, but the next meeting series we can kind of finalize a draft of the official charter for the Fuck Shit Up committee. Isn't there an outdated version of this in CHOPS? The charter or the leadership stuff? Roll.
The leadership.
Sorry?
You asked a question, so are you ask? Oh, it's Reza. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is stuff in CHOPS, and the NCC asked us to look at this. So it's just being kind of updated. We'll start just at the top of what is on the sheet. So I'm going to read it aloud just in case people actually watch the recording, which seems highly unlikely. But it sounded like David was calling in from a phone, so he might not be able to see this. And it's in the recording. So what some of the suggested language currently is now seeking enthusiastic, proactive, accomplished leaders with a positive outlook and a strong desire to give back to their community in service of others. USBG DC, as an example, is recruiting candidates for chapter board elections. So obviously this would be something each chapter would personalize to their own chapter. Who should be recommended? Folks with good judgment, optimistic self-starters, individuals happy in their careers looking to give back, members who are reliable and are committed to the mission of the USBG, those who are ready to prioritize what's best for the whole, open-minded, open-hearted givers. Our organization is filled with people who fit the bill to be successful leaders. Leadership often implies a hierarchy of sorts, and lots of people in the right temperament with the right temperament for leadership tend to shy away from these positions. We need you to let them know that they are precisely the people who should step up. Have someone in mind who fits the bill. recommend them by filling out the form at the link below, and we will get in touch with them to find out if they want to take the next steps to becoming community leaders in the USBG. Then there's a link to the recommendation form and then the due date for said recommendation form. So that's the language that we're going to kind of talk about today and see if there's any suggestions, any other addition, anything that should be added, maybe taken away. What are your thoughts on that as a written way, or possibly even a script if these became phone calls, to kind of nudge people to be looking for people to tap? This organization, we've talked about this a number of times in these meetings, that when you just say like, hey, somebody want to do this, there's not a lot of people that always step up, or sometimes it's just the same people that step up. And if you actually individually ask people, then they're much more likely, oh, you mean me? Yes. Otherwise, they kind of think everybody else is being addressed, not them. So this is the call to ask people to do the tapping.
I guess I'm full of coffee. I'll start us off.
Go, Reza.
I think it's a good start. Obviously, there's some like feel good, flowery terminology in there, rather than the very standard, like factual information that we give when it comes to opportunities, let's just say. Mm-hmm. However, I would definitely supplement this by adding minimum criteria, whatever applies, as minor as that criteria might be, and also B, by giving an expectation of number of hours or overall commitment to this in any leadership role that we post.
Yeah, I'd second that on time commitment for sure. Just some kind of verbiage somewhere, however we want to dress it up, but just say, comfortable with a X amount time of, commitment or something. Doesn't necessarily have to be a number, but
yep.
Just the fact that you'll actually have to do something, because in our board currently in Las Vegas, it's pretty much run by 3 people, because the other ones they're just off, they never have time for it. So
there you go.
Good meeting people, great bartenders, awesome members of the community, but just do not have time when they're not working. They want to spend time with their family, and who could blame them? So,
Great. I think those are smart ads.
What is the current minimum criteria for a local board? Is it just that you're a member?
I don't.
Member and a pulse and a computer is basically the criteria.
I think. I don't know exactly. I'm adding these in as we're talking about them. I think you also have to pass a background check, because we talked about the background check in this group for a while.
I wasn't sure if that was for the whole, for the board structure, if that was just for council structure, because I know council does, because then you're in a position where you're actually like personally handling finances and such, but
I don't know that I know the difference.
Yeah, when we've been shoulder tapping for local board, they just had to be a member. Then maybe something like you have to be a member for at least a year, maybe, to be on board. You can't join today and then be a board member tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure it's pretty loose to be on the board. Council, like you said, is maybe a different story. But yeah, I think it's just member.
Mm-hmm.
When y'all are saying, I don't know that the words are making sense in my head, but I'm not any of those things. So what's the difference between a board and a council?
You can appoint council, and then board members are elected. So with our governance 3.0, the members will, elect, 6 board members, depending on the size of the chapter. Let's say 6 board members, and then they don't vote for president, vice president. They're then appointed by the board. So you could have 4 more additional people join this governing body, or they can appoint amongst the board as well in the role of president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
Got it. So then this is the ask for people to run as a candidate for their local boards. Okay, got it. Okay. So then current USBG membership for some length of time may already exist. And I'm pretty sure the background checks apply to people running for a board, but that is something I don't know the difference between. If maybe the background check is only if they're an officer on the board, I guess is the difference. I don't know that.
Yeah, I forgot if I had to get a background check for my board position, but for treasurer, I definitely did.
Got it. Okay.
I do happen to also serve on the nominating committee, which activates once a year specifically to vet. I nominate, shoulder tap, vet national board members for national elections. And so we actually have a polished, much more extensive version of this, announcement for openings.
Mhm.
I have that on another tab open in my computer, but I don't know if I'm authorized on behalf of that committee to just go ahead and transfer all those resources into this conversation. But if you want, I will double check with the chair of that committee and just see if I can copy and paste a version of what the national board election announcement looks like. So then we can definitely chop that down into a much more digestible version for local. That way there's synergy between the verbiage and even the physical layout. So if the same individual in theory moves up in their roles within the organization, they're accustomed to seeing the same template and some of the same verbiage used to describe leadership positions.
Yeah, I feel free to ask whoever you need to ask, but I think that information would be very helpful for this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Even if you're comfortable, you can just talk about it from your experience as a committee member. That way you're not breaking anything, but your experience on all those committees is part of the reason I super begged you to be and fuck shit up.
But
Because
trust me, I don't think anybody here is going to take this information and go start their own organization. So let's keep talking, and I'll try to find it and just copy and paste it. Who cares? I'm the vice chair. I'm giving us permission to do so.
Perfect. Yeah, feel free to either say it or you can paste it into the document. Here comes Joe Beth, or you can just talk about it in the recording. Because I do think that it would make total sense that these are not wildly different wording, even though they're a very different scale of responsibility.
Yeah.
I think that this is the starting place from the NCC on a chapter board level, and then I guess my first question would be: Is Reza, do you notice something that isn't in this that should be that is in the national, or that is in this that isn't in the national? Like, what's missing, I guess, would be where I would start.
Those are my two opening comments.
What is?
Time commitment and the what was the other one?
Criteria and the time commitment.
Oh, okay, got it. Cool. Okay, great. What as we kind of think about other minimum what are minimum criteria questions, right? Like, I do not know those answers. If anybody on this call knows what the minimum criteria is to be a chapter board member, that would be awesome information to type in to make sure that it's in this. But while maybe someone is looking that up, what are, to be able to put down the realistic time commitment, what I think is interesting about that is that the word depends comes to mind, right? Is some chapters, like Raul was saying, it's 3 people who are basically working part-time, if not full-time jobs. Other chapters that have much more people kind of actually responding and doing those things, it might be less time. If you are rebuilding a chapter, it might be more time. And if your chapter is running like a well-oiled machine, it might be less time. So it might be interesting to come up with a statement about like time varies. And
yeah, time varies between chapter,
right,
state or something. Yeah.
And at the most, it could be this, and at the least, it could be this. Please don't expect to spend less than an hour a month, whatever the less is, because then that's how you get people who I don't even have an hour a month. Well, please don't apply because it's actually like 12 hours a month, not an hour. That might be something to think of while possibly someone's looking up the answers about minimum criteria, and Reza, you're looking at the cross referencing. Is that a good, efficient use of time?
Yep.
That's also like maybe there should be a section in this that needs to be amended by each chapter, because I know like chapter to chapter they give their board different responsibilities just to hold people accountable. Like some chapters make sure that all of their board members are also like a committee lead or something like that, but that's at the discretion of a chapter rather than a nationally dictated thing.
All right. I just added to amend by each chapter to acknowledge each chapter's various roles and responsibilities, committee leads, council positions appointed by board members, etc. The bonus is that, remember, the cool thing about fuck shit up is that we don't have to do anything. We just have to fuck it up and hand it back. Right? That's the bonus. We're not in charge. We're just fucking it up. Great. What do you think is the minimum realistic time commitment of a basic board member who doesn't have extra responsibilities?
Like the minimum of, like, let's say, a well-oiled machine type chapter.
Yeah, everything's magical and you don't have nothing to do except your one little thing. What would that minimum be?
So like 1 to 6 hours a week. Be there for some events and approvals, and that's it. It's basically like when you do something, you're supposed to bring it to the board for approval, but
1 to 6 hours a week, attend programs, share ideas, read. I'm probably shooting for the moon here, but read and respond to communications. Wouldn't that be amazing? Is there a maximum?
I mean, if you're the board member of a, like, say, struggling chapter, you're probably going to have to hustle a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what that would be. Say like 10 to 15 hours. I mean, that sounds like quite the commitment. I don't know if that's right, but
It also
curious to see what
depends
everybody else is.
how many events or meetings they activate a month, because you might have to be the one picking up all the supplies, setting it up, executing it, breaking it down, doing the outreach. So it truly does vary depending chapter to chapter, depending on their activity and their leadership engagement.
Yeah, I think if we gave them like a range and then said, but all this could vary depending on your chapter's state and state of activity, you know, could be more, could be less, but here's a rough guideline, just so they know that they have to spend like any time at all would be great. Because like I have, like I said, you know, about 3 to 4 board members that are not engaged.
I think every chapter has that, where people
Yeah.
join the board because they like the title and then never follow through with anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're so excited at the beginning, and then they just kind of peter out. And I've tried guiding them through the process, and then, you know, we've received feedback that me and Lisa were micromanaging the chapter, and I said, okay, well, here, you're in charge of education, great, go run the ball down the field. And then nothing, and then we had to pick it back up and do it. So it was like, all right, well, what do you want? No control, too much control. So yeah.
Well, and that also, I would imagine, David also agrees, I would imagine that also varies by the human, right? So like if I serve on a number of different boards, and for the record, I serve on boards that have like $1 million of budgets, and there are still people who flake out and don't read agendas and show up for the title, and that's it. Like, that's just that type of person, right? Okay, so this is what I put in. What I was saying is that like nobody should micromanage me, because I will punch you in the face, right? But there are other people who really need to be micromanaged. So like I always end up pairing up with that person who's like, what? There's an agenda? Yes, every meeting, Patrick. So then, like, I have the meeting before the meeting with Patrick to, like, remember the agenda. This is what we're talking about. I don't know what that means. Excellent. So here's what it means. Now let me help you formulate what your opinion is. Like, I would do that with some of the board members, largely because I was trying to get my own agenda through, right? So maybe I'm being an asshole, but I'm just being honest. But if Patrick, in this case, is not prepared, isn't going to be thinking about anything, then let me help you prepare and tell you what I think. And then if that works out well, then that's 2 votes in my favor.
If all you're gonna do is show up and vote no.
Right. Or even there are times where I encourage, because of my own values, I encouraged people to abstain from a vote because the vote that was being called was actually didn't have enough information behind it, right? So the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting are important. Okay, so this is what I typed in. 1 to 6 hours a week, attend programs, share ideas, read and respond to communications. Volunteer roles or what you put into them. Holding good time boundaries is also important for leadership roles. Based on your chapter's state of activity and or culture, time commitment could vary. How's that sound?
Good.
Yeah, I like that there's some open expectation of time depending on where you are,
Right. Excellent. Did anybody by chance find minimum criteria for leadership positions?
I didn't seek it out, but I did put in the chat a copy of the board candidate application packet. Now it's a 6 or 7 page document. That's way more than we need for this conversation at hand. But that document is shared with people that express interest in or are nominated for national leadership positions. So they're already kind of past the initial hump of like, oh, should I do this or should I not do this? Thus, it's not very flowery or inspirational. It's very factual and detailed in the requirements, the criteria, the expectations, and so on. But perhaps if and when chapters are writing the job description for board leadership, this can be used as an outline, but also maybe some of the bits and pieces could be cut and paste into this, the USBG DC version that we're working on, which is super flowery and fluffy and like feel good. I understand that message is probably meant to be an initial icebreaker to try to capture people's attention to want to raise their hands or nominate others, versus this document is more like further along in the process, but perhaps there could be a little bit of influence from one onto the other. So there's continuity of expectation and messaging.
We're definitely going to find out that base criteria for board.
Chapter
Cole
board.
shared a file. Yeah, I was going to say Cole and Colleen are in the membership committee, so they might have that information on what the base board criteria should be.
I will click on that 1 second. I'm looking at Reza's currently. I also added in, because the one that Reza uploaded has a timeline of the process. So that might also just information. That might be nice. And agree to abide by the code of conduct. That seems like something that should probably be added in.
Oh, nice.
Alina, did you say something?
That the code of conduct should always be part of these conversations.
Right. And what's funny is, and by funny I mean haha, welcome to my job security, is that I think everybody would agree with that, but then it just becomes so assumed it doesn't even get stated. So then if it doesn't explicitly get stated, then how do you hold anybody accountable to it?
Yeah.
That is literally why I have so much job security, is people like this tech company I'm working with right now, they have all these policies that they think everyone knows about, but they hire 2,000 new people a month. Well, guess who doesn't know what the hell you're talking about, right? Because they didn't explicitly state them. So then how do you hold people accountable to them if you didn't state them because you thought that it was obvious? It's not obvious.
So the file that Cole shared, it does not really say, oh, you have to be a member for X amount of time or any kind of, specific criteria. You do have to keep responsibility, uphold fiduciary duties, exercise care, abide by code of conduct, maintain confidentiality, faithfully honor all legal obligations. And then it says you're expected to keep your membership current. So I think that's the criteria, which is in the file he sent over.
Okay, great.
If we wanted to add like an abbreviated version to this, because
Right.
they're going to see that document anyway, when they,
I think the 3-year term is probably something important that needs to be on this.
Yeah, you'd be serving for 3 years. Yeah.
All right. I wonder if there is just a link to the job description. I mean, that seems like a way of doing that.
A link to that document or something?
Yeah. Like there's a link to the chapter leader recommendation form, so I'm willing to bet that there is a link to the job description of a board member.
Yeah, it's called chapter board job description.
All right, great. Looks good. Sounds good. Any questions, thoughts, comments that's not covered in what we were asked to go over was specifically the information that I'm guessing will be forwarded out to as many people as possible to try to tap people for to nominate themselves or others for leadership positions.
Do we need to have a little section in this about like the benefits of being a chapter leader? Like, would that help with basically our lack of people that are willing to?
You don't need to RSVP to events. There you go.
Yeah, like what are the benefits to this? Because that's also like, I mean, something that we should be talking about for like how we treat our volunteer leadership in general, like what the benefits are to actually being a volunteer leader in our organization.
Benefits of chapter board service. Man, I cannot type today. I want to blame it on my mouse, but it is not my mouse's fault. All right. Great. Why throw out some benefits?
Let's say choosing the direction that your local chapter heads in.
Helping shape the direction, maybe.
Yeah.
Instead of, yeah.
That's really important, actually, because everybody has so many opinions that they always state about we should be or we could be. Mm-hmm. Like maybe a teaser
we could
line.
be doing this event. It's like, okay, plan it.
Right.
We'll fund it. Just plan it. We'll find you a sponsor. Just plan it. But yeah.
In chat, we had helping shape your local community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
So I have helping shape the direction of your local chapter's future.
Maybe your local chapter and hospitality community, maybe just tying those together.
Yeah, those are separate things. Your local community and your chapter's direction are two separate things, but they convert hopefully.
Oh, I think I have them as two separate things. This is what I typed so far, just in case you can't see the Google Doc. Helping shape the direction of your local chapter's future, planning events and programming you are interested in, helping shape your local community, local hospitality community.
The events one, could you say, can you read that one again?
Sure. Planning events and programming you're interested in.
Maybe planning events and stuff that the chapter would be interested in, that your fellow chapter members would be interested in. Because like trying to take the you out of it, make it more of a collaborative thing.
Perfect.
Because they should have that mindset going in. It's not like it's gonna be the Rawl show. It should be,
Isn't everything the Rawl show?
If only.
Definitely put networking opportunities with other leaders, both on a local and national level.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What about the like the retreat that's happening in New York, or like the stepping stone to the NCC, and how it's a stepping stone to other task forces or committees within USBG,
Mhm.
which gives
I mean,
you internal experience to eventually run for national board? Do you want to put something in about that?
Yeah, like even for local chapters, you have to serve on the board before you could be a chapter president. So,
yeah, opportunities for progression in USBG leadership within the USBG leadership. I don't know whatever words are sense making in that sentence.
Experience.
I, unlike Reza, am not powered by coffee yet. I'm awaiting my next dose.
To step into other USBG leadership.
And we could also highlight the ability to travel to other USBG chapter cities in order to gain this experience, because I mean, travel is always cool.
mhm.
I mean, via the conferences, right? Like, so like maybe adding, that, because it's not like, once you're on the board, it's like, oh, we're sending you to Hawaii. See ya. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be like tied into something. And
Well, really, it's about expanding your network within your city, your region, and then possibly be able to travel and engage with others.
yeah, right. Within your region or via the regional conferences or something like that. I feel like I don't want to like put out there like, oh, you're gonna see the world, kid. Once you join the board, you know what I mean? It's like, well, it's slow down, Tiger. It's just let's stick to the Southwest region.
Hey, if you are good at fundraising and plan some great trips for your chapter, you for sure get to go on that trip that you planned.
Oh yeah, somebody's got to babysit them.
You get to be the sober one on that trip.
Soberish,
Okay, so I added, I'm going to read from the top. Helping shape the direction of your local chapter's future, planning events and programming fellow chapter members are interested in, helping shape your local hospitality and community, networking opportunities with other leaders on a local and national level, experience to step into other USBG leadership roles, parentheses, committees, task force, council positions, traveling to conferences, retreats. Transferable skills for your own businesses and workplaces, and then personal and professional development. I know that at the regional retreats, it came up a lot that they didn't know if they did this role with the chapter that it actually gave them skills that they could use at work. So that's what I was trying to kind of name there. Thank you, whoever is green and doing edits.
Yeah. And it also, I mean, it looks good on your resume. So I don't know how we can maybe add that in there.
I think that fits in like personal and professional development.
Yeah.
Okay. Anonymous Elephant is adding something. Potentially contributing to career trajectory. Excellent. All right. Anything else that y'all can think of that needs to be in this process? Cole, I know you are mostly a fly on the wall, but thinking from a membership place, are there any messages or anything that need to be included in this kind of ask to tap?
From a membership lens, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think this is obviously a very important process because having local leaders, I always reflect on like the local member experience can vary a lot between chapters and from year to year as the leadership changes. So tapping those people and getting that continuity is really critical, because the local leadership has as much an effect on the day-to-day member experience as anyone else does. And so I'm happy that this process is that it's getting the attention that it needs. But I don't have any, like, in terms of what the member needs for this are, or the membership committee needs for this are. I'm just glad that we're looking at it, I think it's safe to say.
I agree with those things. I'm just thinking about something else. Reza, from a nom-com and or your other positions and experience, do you have any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, not necessarily from nomcom, but certainly from as a personal perspective. Honestly, when under that segment of who should be recommended, and then once again down in benefits of chapter board service, I would perhaps just simply reorder the statements in the following. And I always try to, and like I have to remind myself of this on a regular basis. Now that I have the perspective and the experience that I have in my personal and professional life, whenever looking at opportunities, evaluating them, or considering ways to contribute, I always look at it from a me standpoint, myself, person, professional, whomever. We, my team, my job, my business, those immediately close to me, and then we, which is the collective, us, local, regional, global. And when I look at things in that order of succession, it helps me list priorities that influence or could inspire decisions throughout. So, things like I would just reorder, like folks with good judgment and open-minded, open-hearted givers. That's a me thing, right? And then leave the we to be secondary, and then the us tertiary in order of listing. I know that's a minute way of picking things apart, but it helps me check all the boxes and be considerate of all the variables that are relevant.
What does that change look like tangibly in this document then? Because I understand what you're saying, and some people are going to be drawn, like what I would also call like flowery language. Like some people are drawn to that because that actually is the invitation in. Other people are going to be drawn to 3.5 hours for 6 months.
Right.
That's going to draw them in, right? Other people are going to be drawn into the future and the future of the community.
Yep, that's the we.
Right. So if those three pieces are in it, then you're actually attractive to different types of people.
Correct.
Cool. Alina, you have had a ton of leadership experience, whether you know it or not, and you've been in a chapter and now you're in a new chapter. From those perspectives, is there anything else you could think of that you would want to add?
No, I think like the biggest thing on my mind with all of these is just like how we as an organization could make these things as beneficial as we can for the people that do step into leadership opportunities, and really, trying to direct our whole organization towards that as well. So I'm glad to see these things being, presented and talked about in a more humane way, in a more personable way.
I think the personable is, I think that's actually a good example of what I was talking about, when we forget to say what we just think everyone knows, but people are new, right? And so the personable way is assumed like, oh, we're all in hospitality, so everybody knows this. But you forget, like, you have a power dynamic as a leader. And so you have to actually be personable and be like, hi, I mean you, like, come here and look at this thing. I find that that's a pattern on a lot of the policies and processes that I've worked in within the guild, is that it was missing the personal touch, but it is also
accessibility too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how do we make sure that these opportunities are actually accessible to everyone and not just people that, I keep seeing these positions being filled by people that have brand jobs that gives them time in their days and their weekly schedules where they don't have to be at work, that gives them the financial leeway that they can take a few hours off and dedicate it in a volunteer time. And we're like, how do we make sure that these things are accessible to everyone, whether you're, a bar back who's only been working for a year, or, a busy bar manager? How do we still engage them? Because sometimes they're the best leaders in our community. They just don't have the bandwidth to take on more.
Right. No, I completely agree in that personal touch, literally and figuratively, right, is that this is a call to ask people to actually tap people on the shoulder who may not otherwise step up on their own. So then, Alina, to your point, maybe the people that are easier to tap is why those are the people who keep filling the roles, or the intersection of those are the people who are also able to step up without being tapped. So then what language do we add to this of like we're intentionally trying to tap different kinds of people who might be waiting for an invitation or
Yeah.
might not feel like the invitations go to them, the invitations go to these other kind of people. Like, no, they can go to all kinds of people, and you're one of the people we want to tap.
Yeah, I think maybe the like I like the concept of individuals happy in their careers, but I think maybe that could be more open to like people at any point in their hospitality careers who are looking to give back to the community.
Mm-hmm.
I've also been in leadership positions that I wasn't happy in. It doesn't make me a bad leader.
Right. I think that's very smart. I added a parentheses at any point in their career, but they're enjoying their job, basically. Like they're enjoying being in this career, because you want them to have something. But that
I mean, we also have a lot of enthusiasts who end up being really, really helpful board members because again, they have, the ability to put time in and other skills that people in our community aren't necessarily naturally trained in, financial skills that are super necessary to running a good chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that like that career mentorship thing is necessarily tied to this board position.
True.
Reza, you muted.
Oh, 2020 called and I'm still on mute. I was going to say maybe that particular statement becomes too complicated with too many qualifying variables. And
I think it needs to be a few separate things.
Right. So honestly, if I understand that, the gist of that is you have to have the time and the stability to be able to contribute to this chapter is what that's saying. Because if you're in your job and you're struggling to make ends meet, or it's a stressful, unhappy situation, you're not going to be able to commit quality time to anything, much less a member-based organization.
Let's say if you're an on-call bartender, I don't know if I'm going to get called in tomorrow. Can I make the event? Oh, I don't know. Can you make the board meeting? Oh, I don't know. I have to find out my schedule tomorrow. That's obviously random, or not a random, but a small percentage of, let's say, on-call bartenders in casinos. But it's been an issue in the past with when we do task force, we get somebody and they're like, oh crap, I have to work. Sorry. Like,
to Alina's point, maybe that line should either just go away or be restated in a different way that says individuals with an opportunity contribute time towards another project or another endeavor,
Yeah, to reliably apply time. I don't know, there's something there about
She's right.
stability.
Enthusiasts are gaining, and contributing good work to the organization. So what their careers are is irrelevant almost.
Right.
Okay, so I added the who should be recommended. I added folks with good judgment, time, and stability to contribute. Optimistic self-starters. This is probably too long, but individuals happy in their careers at any point or facet of membership, looking to give back to the hospitality industry. Members who are reliable and committed to the mission of the USBG. Those who are ready to prioritize what's best for the whole, and open-minded, open-hearted givers.
Happy in their careers is just such a weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that that's the qualifier for this position.
Yeah. And there are days I'm not happy in my career. Let me tell you. And I work for a brand.
I think that could just be individuals at any point or facet of membership looking to give back to the hospitality industry.
Okay, great. I think David had to leave.
Yep.
Bye, David. We missed you. Great. Okay. Joe Beth, from your vantage point, do you have any thoughts or comments or anything that you think needs to be added?
Sorry, I was unmuting myself. I'm having a bit of a coughing fit today. I think what everybody's putting in here is very valid. I don't know off the top of my head if I have anything else to contribute.
Okay. Totally.
But I will say, knowing, the past two presidents or the past three presidents, fairly well in our chapter, Paul was a very kind of, the vice president's going to take care of the majority of the work. Luke, unfortunately, had the presidency when we went into quarantine. So he both kind of didn't have much of a choice but to handle a lot of things himself, but he also chose to do that. And then Nigel, who's our current president, he had told me when they approached him about running, being president, he said, I will, but I'm going to be the president of no, because I have too much on my plate. And so I'm not going to do everything myself. So there's just different mindsets. I don't know if we can I feel like that's kind of already been stated earlier when you were saying, it just depends on how much you want to put into this, but you do need to put some work into it. But I don't know. I'm kind of rambling today. I'm sorry. My head's a little swimmy.
Are you feeling okay?
I am. It's just I overindulged a bit last night. And I didn't have my party stuff like I did in New Orleans. And so, but it's that, and then the change in the weather, a very abrupt change of weather is making my sinuses attack my head.
Oh yeah. It's cold city here right now.
Yeah. I mean, it went from like 95 degrees on Saturday to 65 degrees yesterday. So bit of a change. And rain.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Well, I think your comment made sense and it didn't seem rambly, and I think it's helpful, so nailed it. It's because we might be able to be done in 8 minutes and I can give people time back. I'm curious, so these fuck shit up calls, we generally picked Tuesdays at this particular 2-hour window because that seemed to be the most popular for people. Which is totally fine. And I am not available on a Tuesday in September. So I haven't done I haven't been able to do a doodle poll because my life has been nuts and I've been trying to figure out which Tuesdays I'm available. So I'm assuming that we will probably meet in October and then November. And then December is usually when y'all get pretty scarce. And so I'm hoping that in the next 2 meetings, number one, we can finalize the charter for Fuck Shit Up Committee, but also be thinking similarly to what we just worked on. Who else needs to be on Fuck Shit Up for next year? Do you want to come back to Fuck Shit Up next year? Are you sick of me yet? Joe Beth has stupidly agreed to be the texting person. Joe Beth, I don't know if you want to do that next year or if you want to find somebody else to do it or somebody else wants to do it. But I want us to also be kind of thoughtful of those things because we need to make those decisions in the next 2 meetings, the October and November, so that Fuck Shit Up can start up again probably in February, planning on February meetings in January, which so far every year has become March. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Are there any thoughts or comments about October or November meetings and or that being our goals?
Just that hopefully earlier in the month will work for most people because I feel like earlier in those months will be much better.
Mhm.
And I'm also good with keeping with texting, but if anybody else likes to text as well, you can add on.
I was just going to ask, we are still going to try to keep Tuesday from October to, for the rest of the, thing, right? Or are we trying to switch up a day? Just because Mondays are just a bad, I would not be able to be here on Monday.
Yeah, I think the plan is to keep it Tuesday 11 to 1
Okay.
for October and November. We just have to navigate my schedule, which is bonkers.
I hear you.
It is basically bonkers. Okay. Great. Well, this has been helpful. I have forwarded back the draft of the information back to Aaron of kind of what we came up with. Reza says, when does the NCC need this chapter board announcement draft back? I have no idea, so I just gave it to Aaron. Stay tuned. He gave it to me from the NCC asking for it to talk about today, so then I just gave it back to him today. That is the car wash. I'm going to stop the recording soon. The next email for me will be the recording of this and the doodle for the October, November meetings. October 11th is available for me. That is a Tuesday in October. And the Tuesdays in November, one of them is Thanksgiving and one of them is the last week in November, which is not early in the month, but I am available. So that is the 22nd or the 29th. I'm going to look at this closer before I make the doodle to make sure that I'm not lying to myself, and we will go from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
High five! Fuck shit up in 1 hour. Here's an hour and 4 minutes back to your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank guys.
Thank you guys.
Be
Bye-bye.
thinking about the mission, though. Put it in the back burner. Be thinking about the charter for Fuck Shit Up.
Thank you.
People are like, fuck off, Jessica. Bye.
Done.
Okay.
Bye.